Back at it, Sports Bet, Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, Monday, August 27th. All the betting news you need to know in less than 20 minutes. Huge series tonight starts in Houston. The Astros at home against the A's. A's a game and a half back. We'll run through that. They're 7-0-1 in their last 8 series. We'll run through week 3, the dress rehearsal, bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. A loaded show coming up with a lot of winners last week, thanks to the Cardinals, Wyoming, and also the under last night in that horror show as the Cowboys turned the ball over 8 times and Arizona gets the win. How was the seminar?
Oh, it was a lot of fun, Paul. It really was. And it was last year as well. So it's back-to-back years that SBR's put on a really good show. The IFBC International Football Conference here in Las Vegas, the Golden Nugget. You see me a little unshaven today. Yeah, it was that kind of a weekend, but tons of great info. 6 really strong panels. And I think pretty much everyone was excited about what they saw. So I hope you're able to make it. If you weren't able to make it, I hope you're able to watch it on live stream. Of course, you can find all the archives at sportsbookreview.com if you missed any part of the weekend festivities. A lot of fun, Pauly. Everyone was asking about you, buddy. Sorry you weren't a little bit under the weather.
That's an understatement. I lost 6 pounds over the weekend. Had the flu, throwing up, and I like when people ask me to do something on the weekend. I've lost 20 pounds since I started that 3 a.m. shift. You're like, yeah, good for you, buddy. No, not good for me. I'm like Teddy. I'm emaciated. I'm 6 feet tall and 170, for Christ's sake. They had a record number of entries in a day at the Westgate on Saturday for the Super Contest, so they're close to 2,000 there. The record was, 2,700 last year. I got that bet with Kelly in Vegas. I got over 3,250 entries. And how about Tony Miller's contest? 7 games. I think it's everything goes, even extra board games in college football, $1,000 entry.
Yeah, that's the key. They took off the totals where a lot of the wise guys were just betting totals that were off of the market numbers in college. So they took the totals off for college football and put the whole board on. So that's a really attractive contest for those who don't want to focus just on the NFL. And, of course, like all the major contests in Las Vegas now, all you have to do is come to town once to sign up. You can get a proxy to put your picks in every week. And then if things go well, you can fly back to Vegas and collect your check at the end of the season.
Amen, brother. Let's run through it. Bad beats. Baseball Saturday. Diamondbacks led 3-1 in the 9th. Bullpen blows it. Seattle ties it. Wins in 10, 4-3. Dodgers Padres under 7.5 every frickin' week. Every game. Jansen blows it again. Dodgers were $4 with Kershaw. They won it on Turner's walk-off in the 12th, but Jansen blows another save. Phillies Saturday were $1.30. They led 6-3 in the 7th and lost 8-6. A couple baseball beats. To football. This one was vicious. Jets Giants over 40.5, 19-13 at the half. 2 field goals in the 4th quarter. 6 points the rest of the way. 22-16. Seattle Minnesota under 38. 22 4th quarter points. 21-20 final. And the Bucks laying 2.5, led by 14 at home against Detroit in the 4th quarter. Lost 33-30.
And that's one that we talked about on the show, saying the 2-0 straight up and ATS teams versus the 0-2 straight up teams. There's something to be said for the 0-2 teams finding a way to win the game. Look, the Lions preseason has been pretty dismal. We'll talk about that when we get into the deep dive, talking about what happened over the weekend for real in the NFL. But from a betting standpoint, Detroit, they weren't a right side in that game. They haven't a right side in any preseason game. But with the point spread on the line in the 4th quarter, Lions played like they cared, and that showed in the end result. Bad beat if you had Tampa minus the points.
Bad for the Bucks. The Cubs, 240 up to 270 yesterday. Homer Bailey, now 1-17. That's the Reds' record when he starts. There was a bet to win $40,000 at the South Point here in town on the Cubbies, putting Murphy in the leadoff spot. That was a good trade. Cubs bats came alive at the end of that series. Sunday night, Arizona +3, went off a 3-point favorite in the total 43.5 down to 38.5, 27-3 final. 8 Dallas turnovers, Arizona +15 in the preseason.
Can you imagine? +15 through 3 games of the preseason. Yeah. No surprise Arizona's been a money winner so far, but that was, you want to talk about a bad game for the books. Bettors got this one absolutely right. We talked about this one on Friday Sports, but saying, hey, here's the quote from Jerry Jones. Dallas isn't going to play anyone. It's not like Arizona did anything right. They just took advantage of all of the Cowboys' mistakes, and there were many of them. But the bottom line, 6-point line move, 4-point total move. Bettors got it all right. Bookmakers just paying out on Arizona and Dallas. And because it was a single event standalone game, that a particularly ugly preseason result for bookmakers, both here in Las Vegas and offshore.
Yep. I talked to one bookmaker. Sunday was a horror show. One of the worst days they've had since April. Yankees, the Sunday night game with the parlays. What happened with some of the other games? Cubs win. A ton of games like that as well. Wyoming 3.5 up to 6. That was men against boys. They beat New Mexico State 29-7. New Mexico State had 4 first downs going in the final drive when they went 93 yards and -9 rushing yards for the game. Saints took money plus 1.5, went off the favorite, and they won in that one. They ran out. That's Peyton in a dress rehearsal. They also went for 2 on all 4 touchdowns, got it 3 times. Bad bets. Texans plus 3. Went off a 3.5 point favorite, and the under from 42 down to 39.5. McVay sat these starters on offense again, but they won 21-20.
It's the same story with the Kansas City game, where all the money's pouring in on the Chiefs. Chiefs go plus 3. They're really plus 2.5. I think there was only one plus 3 at the opener, but they were plus 2, 2.5. They got steamed up to -6, -6.5 on game day. Did Andy Reid care? No, he didn't care. There are a lot of games where teams were trying to bet against, or were bettors trying to get a bet against one side, but it didn't matter because the other side wasn't all that interested either. It wasn't a pretty week 3 of the preseason. I'll put it that way. And certainly for Kansas City backers, look at Andy Reid. They not amused with the Chiefs' 7-point loss on Saturday night.
Well, the one thing you have to love in preseason, Harbaugh does it again, but the Dolphins took money from pickup to 2.5. 12 wins in a row in the preseason for Harbaugh. Ravens win again. Quickly, baseball, Nats, Mets under 9 down to 8.5, not even close. 15-0 final. Angels plus 125 down to 110. They lost. Seattle plus 170 down to 150. Arizona beat them 5-2. Greinke is tough at home.
Yeah, he sure is. Certainly. When you're talking about weekend baseball, bad results for bettors, those 3 absolutely stand out. Seattle, LA, and the Nats that under in the 15-0 final.
Big game breakdown. Here we go. A's on the road to take on the Astros on a short card. A's a 1.5 back. $1.85 now. 180 opened up, 180 up to 185. It's Anderson against Cole. The Astros are 10-6 this year against the A's. A lot of that damage was done early. The last time they met in Houston, the A's took 3 out of 4. And then they just played last week in Oakland, and the A's won 2 out of 3. Houston is 47-21 on the road, only 33-29 at home, off a beatdown of the Angels over the weekend. But a 1.5 back, the A's now a 5-game lead over the Mariners for that second wild card spot. They're 7-0-1 in their last 8 series, and Anderson has been terrific with an ERA under 1 this month. And Cole, after having that long stretch, throwing 100 pitches, I think it was 9 straight games. It kind of scaled him back as well. But Houston getting healthy now with the big bats and starting to turn it around.
Well, that's the key. When we look about what's happened over the last month and a half is that the A's have made their backers a fortune, and the Astros have pretty much, I'm not going to say crushed their backers, but they certainly haven't made a whole lot of money for people who've been betting them day in, day out. Houston, a banged-up team, well, now they're getting healthy. And the key, if it wasn't so obvious before, it's completely obvious now. Jose Altuve. He came off the 10-day DL last Tuesday. Lo and behold, the Astros haven't lost since. 5 straight wins for Houston. George Springer expected to come off the DL and rejoin the lineup for the Astros today. So another big bat coming back. Carlos Correa. We finished strong on the road trip, and that was key. We wanted to go home playing good baseball, and we've been able to do that. Now we got a good series against the A's, and we've got to keep it going. Look, Cole is no joke. Sure, he hasn't hit 100 pitches this month, and he's only reached 7 full innings once in his last 11 starts. Make no mistake about it. Garrett Cole is a bet on hurler. Even though the Astros just 1-4 in his last 5, he has owned the A's 2-0 with a 2.92 ERA in 4 starts against them this season.
I give the Astros the edge in this series, even though they've struggled at home. Because tomorrow it's Edwin Jackson against Morton, and then Wednesday it's Cahill going against Keuchel, and Cahill's got an ERA of 7 on the road. Manaya's on the DL now as well. Bassett pitched well yesterday. That was a great job by the A's. They lost that first game in Minnesota, then won the next 3. and they continue to beat up on some of these teams under 500. But what a turnaround here! And this is it. This is the last 3 games between these
Yep.
teams this year, and then it's a huge week for the A's because after this, Seattle comes into town for a big 4-game series.
Sure. And when we talk about Brett Anderson going today for Oakland, Anderson's a guy who's been, fantastic, as you mentioned, 0.68 ERA this month. But his track record against Houston isn't very good. He faced them once this season. He gave up 9 runs, 10 hits, and 3 walks in 3 innings. That was a 16-2 home loss back in May. That is, without a doubt, his single worst start of the season. So I'm a little bit concerned about how Anderson matches up against an Astros lineup that is just starting to click again now that they're healthy. We'll talk about this game again when it comes to play of the day time.
All right, dress rehearsal recap starting with Sunday night. Arizona didn't do much on offense, but all the Dallas turnovers, 8 to be exact, and an easy win for Arizona. Although they're saying the right things about how much they love this defense and what they're running there, and Peterson had the pick 6 as well. But Rosen didn't get in there. Bradford was okay, but the 14 points early with the pick 6 and the special teams touchdown.
Sure, it was a pretty sleepy game, no question about it. And obviously no Dak, no Zeke, 3 starting offensive linemen sitting for Dallas. That offensive line may not be healthy for week 1. They're certainly not going to be in great form in week 1. And that's a concern considering the backup QB situation for Dallas. Cooper Rush, he's been pretty ugly. 2 picks, obviously, against Arizona. In his last 12 drives, the offense has gained a grand total of 153 yards. They haven't scored a point. That's certainly a concern for Dallas, given the problems on the OL.
Sunday afternoon, Josh Allen didn't play well, 34 yards on 6 of 12 passing. He was sacked 5 times. The offensive line was terrible. I think Peterman's going to win that job. You can't throw Allen in there, and all those people who bet the Bills win total under, if they got 7.5 or 7, are loving life. Bengals get the win. A Ross sighting, caught a touchdown. Dalton gets the standing ovation before the game. Going to be a long year for the Bills.
Yeah, look, even though I didn't see any 7.5s out there, or the prevailing number for Buffalo was 6.5 for most of the offseason. That number's down as low as 5.5 in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Someone got a 7. Hey, good for them. I got a 6.5 under 6.5 in my pocket, and I'm fairly comfortable with that wager. Now, look, everyone's saying Josh Allen stunk. Look at Nathan Peterman. Josh Allen stunk. Look at Nathan Peterman. Let's not forget, Josh Allen faced the first stringers. Nathan Peterman faced the backups. Peterman's supposed to look better. That being said, I think he won the job as the starting quarterback for the Buffalo Bills in week 1, coming up in 2 weeks.
How about what the Jags defense did again? Now, I know Dan Quinn doesn't care, but the Falcons couldn't move the ball. Now, they won't play anybody Thursday, and they're going to get ready for the Eagles, and it might be Foles and not Wentz, as that's a high total as well. Remember, Atlanta, the defense was terrific last year. The offense struggled, and they haven't done much in the preseason. They struggled. Jacksonville gets the win. Bortles threw a couple picks, and I didn't see much of the Colts 49ers game.
No, look, Blake Bortles was ugly. Blake Bortles was ugly for extended stretches last year. 2 interceptions that were dicey. And, of course, let's not forget the injury to wide receiver Marquise Lee.
Yes.
Have not heard an update on that, but that's their number 1 wideout. Now you have a dicey quarterback and a dicey offensive line and an issue at wide receiver. That's a big injury for Jacksonville. And Bortles looks every bit as lousy this year in the preseason he did for much of last season. As for San Fran, Andy, the 49ers are a work in progress. I'll just put it this way. They're struggling in the red zone. They struggled with continuity. And when you talk about Kyle Shanahan's offense, it is a complex offense. It will take time. It is taking time. San Fran, the early love for the 49ers in the betting markets, we're not seeing that anymore. And that week 1 line against Minnesota is getting steamed up in favor of the Vikings.
That's surprising because the Vikings have had their issues, and that's a work in progress with Shermer out and a new quarterback in. Steelers played the first string defense. They shut down Tennessee and got the win there. And as I mentioned, McVay sat everybody, although the Rams still beat the Texans.
Yeah, the Steelers didn't allow Tennessee to cross midfield in their first 7 drives. 6 sacks for Pittsburgh in that ball game. Certainly a good sign. There's a lot. One thing that was very clear as I've been reading and as I was talking to people all weekend, there's a very wide range of opinion about the Pittsburgh Steelers, particularly on defense this season. Some legitimately sharp people think the Steelers have an A-plus level defense. Others think their defense is more like a C. We'll have to see. They look real good on Sunday. And as for, the Texans, look, Deshaun Watson, nothing going on. But that offensive line for Houston is very much a problem. As for the Rams, 3 preseason games, we haven't seen the starters. Nothing. Sean McVay really keeping L.A. healthy. Says, we'll do it in practice. We're not worried about doing it in the games. McVay's approach to the preseason could be the death of the preseason when we talk about what the long-term implications of the Rams sitting everyone might be if LA comes out and wins in September.
And here was your 8.5-point move as the Bears sat everybody and Kansas City played the starters, but they lost 27-20. Nagy said, what's another 24-25 plays? No Trubisky. Daniel played well as the Bears win that game. And the Broncos looked terrific. They came out on fire and ran out the Redskins in the first half on the road.
Sure. Let's talk about, Nagy saying, all right, I'm going to sit everyone. I'm going to sit Trubisky and all that money coming in. But for Kansas City, we've seen 3 preseason games now. Their defense hasn't stopped anybody. It's looked really ugly. 3 backup quarterbacks in 3 games have led touchdown drives against the starting defense. And, of course, Chase Daniel didn't stop at 1 in that game. He guided 4 scoring drives against that Kansas City defense that is clearly problematic. And, hey, we had an Adrian Peterson sighting for a Redskins team that has no running backs. 11 rushes, 56 yards.
Mm-hmm. How about the Battle of New York, Jets and Giants? I imagine Darnold will start week 1. Didn't lose the job. They're trying to trade Bridgewater. McCown, I don't think, has got in there at all. And Eli was 17-23. Ingram did suffer a concussion in the Giants' win.
Yeah, Darnold started off with a nice, solid TD drive in the first drive, but 5 of his next series ends up going 3 and outs. Giants, Eli, 17-23 for $188. They didn't score a touchdown in any of Manning's 3 quarters of action this preseason. Of course, they didn't have OBJ. They didn't have Saquon Barkley. Only played 6 snaps in August. They didn't have Evan Ingram. We'll see if the Giants' offense performs better with those 3. One would think they perform better with those 3 guys in the field. But when it comes to preseason snaps, Giants' skill position talent hasn't had a lot of time to work with Eli Manning.
Belichick finally played an under. 8 straight overs in the preseason came to an end. Carolina won in that game. And then the Friday night, which opened, I think, 3, got up to 7, back down to 5.5, settled at 5. Oakland won in a sleep inducer, 13-6 at home against the Packers.
Oh, my God, that was about as ugly a game as you will ever see. The Packers playing without either tackle. The starting tackles, David Bakhtiari and Brian Bulaga, both sat, or the rest of the offensive line. The backup tackle, Kyle Murphy, got lit up in that ball game. And, it was one of those games where the offensive line play was so bad, you really couldn't get a sense of anything that Brent Hundley or Deshaun Kaiser were battling for the backup QB job. You got no sense of what those 2 guys are capable of doing. That one was ugly from both angles. It wasn't like Oakland was particularly good. Connor Cook had a really rough time behind Derek Carr. 6 of 15, 72 yards. A 27.6 QB rating. Not pretty for Connor Cook, who, let's put it this way, he won't cost me money again. And if you backed him, Raiders covered in that ballgame, but Cook's been pretty rough.
How about John Gruden? I don't know if the backup quarterback's on the roster. Jesus. All right. Here we go. Money time play of the day. Let's keep it going. 9-12. Astros on the run line. Plus $1.10. Tough scheduling here for the A's while they've been on fire. You got that big series against Seattle. You had the day game on Wednesday. Then you had to fly to Minnesota. You got beat Thursday. 4-game series there. Now you go from Minnesota. Now you got to go to Houston. You got the big matchup coming up tonight. But Cole's been pitching well. We'll take the Astros at home on the run line against Anderson. Get close now. We're down to a 1.5 lead in the division. This is the final 3 meetings between these teams. And then, if you're the A's, you lose 2 out of 3. No big deal. Because then you got a 4-game set with the Mariners coming up at home. That's it. Thanks for watching SportsBet Betting Insight today. I'm at Real SportsBet on Twitter. He's at Teddy_Covers. Great stuff from Peter King and Mike Pereira tomorrow on what with the rules and the illegal contact. We'll touch on that and recap everything, a short card, and we'll get to a Big 12 preview as well. SportsBet Betting Insight today, SBRpicks.com.